Today I'm going to show you the large loopy flower. And you can get pins to put on the back so that they can be removable flowers for hats or headbands. You can also leave your ends and use them to tie them on to be a permanent fixture on a hat or a headband. Another thing I have found is these cute car vent clips, and you can hot glue one of those to the back. Let's see. You can glue one of those to the back, and it's a cute air freshener for your car. I found these on Amazon, and I found these on Amazon, and you can also get these in just a little bar. But I liked the added backing, especially for little ones. It's a little big. Even if it were to fall off, it would be hard for them to swallow versus just a single pin. So we're going to use, I'll leave those there, a 4mm hook. And I like to use Lily's Sugar and Cream yarn. Oops, let's get the one from the middle. Let's leave that one right there. We're going to start with a magic circle. So it's 4mm. And we're going to do 8 single crochet. And I try not to do these too tight because I don't want my loops to be super tight when I go to make the loopy petals. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pull that closed. Okay, now for this round we're going to add another row of single crochet, but we have to do an increase, and we want to leave these front loops available to do our petals in. So we're going to do this round in the back loop only, all the way around. And I'm just going to do a continuous round on these. So I'm not going to slip stitch. I'm going to just go ahead and do a single crochet. So I'm going to do 2 single crochet in each back loop because we want to increase this round. That's what gives it such a full look. So you should have 8 single crochet in your first round, and you should have 16 single crochets at the end of this round. And then we're actually going to tie this off when we're done and then start our loops. So these are great flowers to add to hats, both summer and winter. Now I'm using cotton yarn right now, so they can be added to summer hats. Okay, this is my last space. If you need to mark your first stitch so you don't lose track, you should use a stitch marker to do that. So let's count our stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So I'm just going to slip stitch into the back loop of the next one just to finish that. I'm going to cut my tail. Now, if you want to permanently attach these to a hat, then I would leave your tails on here and use those to tie them on to a hat. But if you're going to put on a backing, you need to tie in your ends. So let's tighten that one. And I like to knot these together. And then I'll tuck in my ends and cut them off. There we go. I'm just gonna find a spot here. And you don't have to take it through very far because you're gonna use hot glue to attach a pin. So that will kind of seal those ends in there anyway. So just tuck it in a little bit. Tie on, tuck in your other end. There we go. All right, so there's our circle. Now we're gonna do our first round of petals into this first round of front loops here. So we'll get a new piece of yarn and we'll go into this first front stitch right there. Like I said, these, especially with the cotton yarn, can get a little tight. Probably won't be tight with acrylic yarn, but all right, so we're gonna slip stitch and chain 8. And we're gonna slip stitch right back into that same stitch. Okay, and now we're gonna chain 8 again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now we're gonna slip stitch into the next loop, the next front loop. There we go. And chain 8 again. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to slip stitch back into the same loop. Chain 8 again. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, and we're going to keep this pattern going all the way around. So you should end up slip stitching twice into each stitch. Slip stitch twice into the first, twice into the second, once so far into the third. And now we're going to chain 8 again. And go back into the same stitch. Chain 8. And then go into the next stitch. And you'll repeat that pattern till you get to the other side. And we'll come back there. Okay, we're back around to the end of the first round of loops. And you can see I've done my 2 slip stitches into the last stitch. And now I'm going to move around to the second row. So round 2 of your loopy petals is going to be in the front loops of your second row of single crochet. So we're going to take this one, we're going to go right into this first loop here, that front loop, and we're going to slip stitch. And in this round we're still going to do 8 chains. 8. And I'm going to go right back into the same space. So you're going to repeat these rows exactly the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now we're going to go into the next one, front loop only. See that? You can see my back loop is still there. Front loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we're going to go back into the same loop. Chain 8 and into the next loop. So your rounds will mimic each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You can see I've done 2 slip stitches in that one, so now I'm working on to the next one. Oops. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and into the same loop. So continue your pattern. Till you get around to the other side. And we'll come back when we get to the other side before we start the third round of loops. All right, we're back around to the end of this second row of loops. And you can see I've got 1 stitch left. So I've got my 8 chains. And I'm going to go into that front loop only. It's a tight one. There we go. Slip stitch, chain 8 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go back into that same stitch. I'm just going to chain 1 just for a minute. And you can already see how full it's getting here. And truly, you could stop there. Doing it this way, the smaller flower is a little bit bigger than my original medium flower. Because you have 16 single crochet back here, your second round has more loops on it. So you could stop there. But if you want it bigger, to be this big, then we're going to go into the back loops now. You can see them back here on all our single crochets all the way around. So I've already chained 1. So now for this last round in the back loops, we're going to do 10 chains for each loop, because we want it to get bigger. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and I'm gonna go into my first back loop right there. And you're gonna continue with the same pattern you've been doing for the last 2 rounds. You want to slip stitch twice into each of those stitches. So there's my first chain 10. I'm going to chain 10 again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and I'm going to go right into that same loop. Slip stitch, chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now I've already done my 2 slip stitches into the first loop. So now I'm going to go into my next loop. Slip stitch, chain 10. Now we're going to go into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. And just bend those loops out of the way so you can see where you need to work. So now we're going into our next stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go right into that back loop. So we've done our 2 slip stitches into the same stitch. So you're going to follow that same pattern again all the way around, doing 10 chains on this round. So your loops are a little bit bigger and they start filling out and getting fuller this way. So you can see that now. So we'll continue that all the way around. You can see I'm going into the back loop. We'll continue that all the way around, same pattern, slip stitching twice into each of these, chaining 10, all the way around. And we'll come back when we get to the end. Okay, here we are back around at the end. And I have one last loop right there to do. So I've got my chain 10. I'm gonna go into that last, let's see here. There we go. Let's see. It's a tight one. Do my slip stitch. Now I'm going to do one more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to attach it right back down into that same spot. I'm going to pick up an extra loop just to tie it in there. And I'm going to slip stitch. And I'm going to cut a tail. I'm going to give that one a knot. So that's how your back should look. And these are those back loops of a single crochet. So those you don't worry about. And that's your full flower. Now this is my joining strand. So I'm just gonna take it and feed it to the back. And I'm going to tie these two together, and then I'm just going to weave in a couple ends. There you go. And then tuck this in. And tuck the other one in. And again, with these on the back, you don't have to loop it through very many spaces because you're going to put some hot glue in there anyway. It's not going to come undone. So there you go. Trim off the excess. And then you can use your hot glue. Glue your backing on. There's your center. And you can refluff your flower. Straighten out your petals a little. And there's your large flower. And there's the pink one with your pin already on the back. These are great to add to hats. So since I used cotton, this is the medium flower, but I added it to a baby hat, baby summer brimmed hat. And you can do it in coordinating colors. Or here's one with a contrast color. And this is a child size, I believe, bucket hat. So again, you can do the same color or you can do a coordinating color. And for these, I just have them pin on so that if you need to wash the hat, you can take the flowers off. And if they want to be used on an adult hat, here's one in a contrasting color on my summer brimmed hat. Kind of zoom out a little bit. So there you go.